Hey everyone, welcome back to SJ Woodworks. I'm Steve, and this week, so there's a challenge out there. Steve Ramsey from Woodworking for Mere Mortals and Alex Harris from ThisWoodWork in the UK have kind of issued a challenge for people to make something out of wood that represents where they're from. I don't have a lot of imagination, but I am from the great state of Washington where we grow a lot of apples. So we're going to make an apple on the lathe today, and we'll make it out of bloodwood, so it's red. It's a red delicious apple is what we're going for, because that's kind of the iconic apple of the state of Washington. The truth is I don't like red delicious apples all that much. There's some other better apples in that, but it's a nice apple shape. We're going to go for it on the lathe today using this small piece of bloodwood. So we're going to put this between centers and have a go at it. This piece of bloodwood is only about 2 inches by, it's 2 inches square by about 4 inches long, so it's not going to be a very big apple. We're shooting for a small, red delicious apple here. First thing we're going to do is rough this to a cylinder using the square carbide cutter, and I'm going to turn a tenon and put it in a chuck to work on the rest of it. We should turn on the power to the lathe first here. So we're all roughed out to a cylinder, and we're on the chuck here. We're going to start shaping the top of our apple, and it's only going to be, about this big. So a small apple, but looking good so far. We're using a diamond carbide tool from Easy Wood Tools here. So while the camera was off, I debated about the shape and went over and over and changed the shape and recut a few things, and really I think I'm just getting crazy about the shape of the apple. It's just an apple, but I think I've got something I like, at least on the top part right now. Next step, we're going to drill a hole here that will be for the stem of the apple, but we're also going to use this hole to reverse chuck this apple onto a wooden, a piece of scrap wood, and I'll show you how that's going to work in a second, but let's just drill this hole here, and we'll go from there. Now we're going to apply a coat or two of sanding sealer. First, let's clean this up with some denatured alcohol. Apply a coat of sanding sealer and then some friction polish on here. Alright, I think our sanding sealer is dry here. While it was drying, I vacuumed up a lot of the shaving. It was looking like a murder scene in here with all the bloodwood everywhere. It's very red. We're going to cut back the sanding sealer with some 600 grit sandpaper, since that's the last grit we used on sanding. Then we will apply a friction polish here, which is based on, it's basically shellac and mineral oil and beeswax mixture and some denatured alcohol. We're going to do that all on this side, and then we're going to part it off, and I'll show you how we're going to reverse chuck this to do something nice with the bottom. So like a lot of things I make for these videos, this is my first time doing things this way, but I want to be able to chuck the apple backwards. So what I've got is just a scrap piece of wood here, kind of chucked up here in the scroll chuck, with a screw coming out of it this way, and I'm going to screw that screw into the hole that we drilled for the stem so that I can finish the back of the apple. We can remove the apple, make a stem, glue it in, and we'll be all done. So we'll just screw this right in here. Okay, so the apple is on the faceplate here. We're going to try and just take light cuts to keep from knocking it off. I don't think it's not running exactly true, but I think that's okay. Apples aren't symmetrical. We'll kind of try and play off of that and just get something on the bottom here finished up. Okay, off camera I basically did exactly the same thing you saw me do on the front side. I finished sanding up the bottom through 600 grit again. Then I cleaned it up with a little denatured alcohol. I applied one coat of sanding sealer and let it dry. Then cut that back with 600 grit sandpaper again, and then applied a coat of friction polish to finish up the bottom. I'm going to remove this now from this faceplate, and then we're going to make a stem for it. Alright, here's our little apple. We're going to make a stem to go right in that hole where this screw has been, so you won't know it was there. And then we'll have a completed apple. Alright, little scrap of black walnut chucked up here. I'm going to use a small square carbide cutter so I can get in close. It's for pen turning. And yeah, just a scrap here. I just chucked it right inside the jaws there. I think it'll be fine for a real quick project. Okay, so here's our little red delicious apple. It actually came out really great, I think. I want to recap the steps with you again real quick. So first of all, we turned a tenon on a block of wood, of bloodwood for this, and then I chucked it up in the chuck, and I shaped the top half of the apple first, using the square carbide cutter to get it down to a cylinder, and then using the Easy Wood detail tool to carve into the top and make this little divot here. And then we did all of our sanding, applied a coat of sanding sealer, and then friction, well, we cut down the sanding sealer with 600 grit sandpaper. You could also use steel wool for that. Then a friction polish on that. And then we drilled a hole here at the top for two reasons. One, because this is where the stem's going to go. And number two, I drilled it deep enough and just the right diameter to be able to turn this thing around onto a screw that was in a wooden faceplate that I had, or wooden scrap block that I had chucked up. So drill it in there, then turn this thing around. Now you might remember when I turned this around backwards it wasn't quite running true, and that's okay really on an apple. Apples aren't symmetrical, and this one honestly you can't tell, it wasn't wobbling very much. But I figured out the reason. What I needed to do was like put a little divot there with a skew chisel or something before I started drilling so that the drill bit would run perfectly true. That was the problem. My drill bit wandered just a tiny bit. when I was drilling it in. So had I put just a little spot with a skew chisel, that would have helped it to run true. Anyway, turn it around, finish the bottom, and I like finishing the bottom of apples. I don't like it just parted off as if it were a bowl or a box or something, because apples have a little divot on the bottom also, just like they do on the top. So turn it around, I could do that divot on the bottom the same way I did on the top. Again, sanding sealer, cut it back, friction polish there, then take it off, and I made a little stem out of black walnut, and then I kind of sanded it down just to make it uneven a little bit, and I glued it in with a little bit of a diagonal direction, just with CA glue, just to make it look more natural. You know, stems kind of come out sideways out of the apple or whatever, so I just kind of want to make it look a little natural. And then here it is. Here's our finished red delicious apple. Then just for fun off camera, I made a golden delicious apple as well. This apple was made with exactly the same procedure, but this one I made out of yellow heart, which I think is also known as Pau Amarello. It's kind of a yellowish tint to it with, again, a black walnut stem. So now I have a pair of apples, and this represents my state of Washington. So for Steve Ramsey and for Alex Harris, with the challenge of representing our home state or our hometown, here's my wooden apples to represent the state of Washington, and I'm kind of proud of them. I'm kind of proud of my state where I live as well. I'll put some good pictures up here at the end so you can get a good close-up of how these apples came out. But I'm actually really pleased with these. This is my first time turning apples, and I hope you like this video. Please go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel if you want to. If you want to see further wood turning videos using carbide lathe tools. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.